PP Mashiach, P Mashiach. Yeah, so Flop Side of Life 2009, that's Station. Just going to be going over some, you know, stuff right now. The Catholic Church lost their leader today, the Catholic Pope. Uh, and so, I'm sure a lot of them are feeling bad about that, thinking about who the next Pope is going to be, moving forward. But I extend my condolences to all my Roman Catholic brothers and sisters. I think I still got a few left that are Roman Catholic. I know in my family, we really don't practice any longer Roman Catholicism. Some of us, I don't know. I don't go into their faith too much. I had 12 brothers and sisters, but I know that we're not weekly Catholics. We don't do the weekly Sunday Mass. Many of us, I don't. I think I have a sister that's a Eucharistic minister, and I don't know. I really don't ask about their faith, but my brothers and sisters and I were all raised Catholic. All 13 of us. We all came from the same mother and father. We went to the same Catholic school, which was a school called St. Denis in Chicago, Illinois, on the south side. St. Denis was a martyred saint that had his head cut off and he walked it to the grave or something like that. I don't know the whole story, but I know that there was a depiction of him I used to see with his head in his hand. Just like St. Lucy, she used to have eyeballs on a plate. It is what it is. But yeah, I grew up, believing in Jesus, believing in the popes, the bishops, the priests, the nuns. We had them all at the school. Chicken jockey. There you go. How's that, Nisa? So anyway, we had them at the school, and I went to, I believed in Jesus, was the Son of God. He rose and died for our sins. I believed it all. How you doing? I love tanks. And so, all 13 of us graduated Catholic school. And then I went to public high school because by the time I made it to high school, all my brothers had been kicked out of the Catholic schools, and they were all older than me. So I just remember one day my dad, there's my pops, there's my Abba, there he is right there. And so anyway, it ain't too much of a, 13 might be unlucky to some, but hey, I was born from 13. I'm number 12, 13. We're all still alive but one, so we're down to 12. But anyway, I went to public high school, and during that time I fell out of my faith. I didn't find my faith again until I had gotten remarried, and started following the Catholic. Hey, all right, man. There you go, Infez. There you go. Peace out. Yep. All right. How you doing? I'm doing good. So anyway, in high school, or I joined the Air Force, then started practicing my Catholicism again. And I'll tell you what, I got into it. I used to do those little booklets and everything. Used to kneel down in the basement and pray and pray and pray, and even go over all the wounds of Jesus. I used to be like that. I was diehard. Became a Knight of Columbus. As far back in my, oh, all right, go Air Force. Yeah, aim high. As far back as I can go, in my family lineage is what I think is from the Du Tremolays. My grandmother was a Tremblay. That was his grandmother came from the Tremblays, or in his father's, yeah, his father's mother was a Tremblay who comes from the Du Tremolays, and Bernard du Tremolay was a knight of what are those knights? The Grand Knights, the Grand Knight of the Crusaders, and he was the second Grand Knight, I'm pretty sure. So anyway, his name was Bernard du Tremolay, and Bernard du Tremolay was killed in Gaza. He was killed in Gaza around 10th century, 11th century, and there was this really like big priest back then. He was Bernard. I forget what Bernard's last name was. Maybe that was his last name, but he like got the Crusades really going. So anyway, they went down to Gaza. He went down there, and they busted through the wall of Gaza, and only 10, 15 Crusaders went into this wall, and the rest of the Crusaders hung back. But my great 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 grandfather was the one that was beheaded, and they had his head on the stake on the walls of Gaza. That's how he lost his life. So anyway, that's how far back in my family history I'm sure that we come from. The Crusaders. There's no doubt about it. So anyway, I'm just saying, I followed my children were all baptized. My wife was baptized. I married a Roman Catholic. We went to the same grammar school. And yeah, so we're divorced now. I never did remarry. She has. But so there was one baptism that sticks out with me, and it was my son. And it was my son John. And when he was born on October 29th, an insignificant day, I guess, 2 days before Halloween. He was due on Halloween, but we had to induce labor. So anyway, I ain't going to go through his whole birth, but his baptismal, I look back at his now and I see the baptismal waters of his mother's womb suffices. I think the waters in the oils of the mother's womb is greater than any baptismal waters that are out there. The baptismal waters of the mother's womb that christens us all into life again. I like Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's a nice place. So anyway, I took him, and the doctor had one of those dots right here. She was Hindu. And so while she held my son, I baptized him. I was always told, like, yeah, you could baptize your own kid. So I baptized my own child. And then when it came up, like the priest said, well, we're going to have a formal baptism now. And I was like, no. I said, my baptism is good enough. There's no need to do it again. I was very, kind of upset in the end. But I went through with it, and we had a regular baptism. I think my brother Mike was the godfather, but I kind of argued it in the beginning. Years later, after I died and had come back to life, that was probably be in 2009, 2010, when I met up with the same child that I baptized. And at that time, I was doing unbaptisms. I was unbaptizing people. And I was unbaptizing people with salt that would go over them, and I would catch it in a bowl. Then I would throw it in a fire to make sure it was dry as dry can be. And then I'd tell them, go find your own baptizer. Because many people were hurt over the Catholic Church, especially over the child abuse scandals. My family was even touched by that. So, you know, it extended its arms to even my own. So I was unbaptizing people for quite some time. And I unbaptized my son. And I unbaptized him one day. And I took the salt and I put it on him and I gave him the rite of unbaptism. And then I took that salt and I threw it in the fire. And I always look at that as I unbaptized the priest, his last baptism, which was the baptism by the priest. So my baptizing him, while that Hindu doctor held him under the water and I baptized him, that one still remains. That one's still there. But at that moment I did that too. The rain of Hurricane Sandy started to fall on us. Yeah. But anyway, I lost my faith along the way. You know, it was right before I died, that like I finally like made my final turn away from the church. And once I made that final turn away from the church, you know, I had died, and you know, the dream showed me that I was a shaman. So all along I was a shaman. I was even born a shaman. So, but after I died, and I totally turned away from the church. I was very angry about a lot of things. So I went about my life and journeyed a lot, a shamanic journey. And so anyway, I'm a Catholic, you know, and I was, or I am, but right now I as Mashiach, I come to see Jesus as the Mashiach ben Joseph. I've come to see Yeshua. I think that these books have been corrupted, you know, after 300 years, when they're in the within the control of Rome itself. You know, it's going to be written for Rome's favor. They controlled it all. You know, Roman Catholicism, he's in Rome, you know. You know, that's what it's all, you know, that's where it came from. You know, it's corrupted. You know, there were many interpreters with these books, and you know, you got many gospels that weren't even written. Gospel of Thomas. You got all these questions that that arose before they put the books finally together. And there's, you know, there's mistakes in them. They're not perfect. But anyway, the 4 stories were chosen, and so, you know, I look at Jesus, or this man, this Jew that lived 2,000 years ago. I think he lived. There was a man that lived in Jerusalem and in Israel 2,000 years ago, and they killed him. He was preaching a message, you know, that didn't vibe with any of them. He was preaching a message that he was the king, you know. You know, he was preaching a message that he was the king, which I am. You know, I'm preaching a message that, you know, everybody's royal. We're all royal under the waters of our mother's womb, baptismal waters of our mother's wombs. that christen us into life again. Yeah, so I'm all about it. And the oils from our mother's womb makes us royal. It's not made by the hands of man, it's only made by the hands of God. So we're all born royal. Hello, how you doing, LL Ping? So we're all made royal by the oils of our mother's oil and baptized from the waters of our mother's wombs that christen us into life again. So anyway, that's how I see it, And so anyway, that's how it goes. And the Pope now, this Pope, this leader, I followed the popes all the time. My son's name is John Paul, His name was Paul. My son's name, my grandfather's name was John. That's how we got John Paul. So, and it was at the time of John Paul the Pope. So, it kind of like worked, And so I've always followed Catholicism, in my own way, raising my family. I tried to bring them to church on Sundays. I tried to do the right things. Then they became teenagers and they didn't want to do it no more, just like me. So anyway, it was all kind of that. And the Catholic Church, after my divorce, I fell out with them totally. That was it. It was all about with me, it was all about the child abuse scandals. We had a Pilarczyk in Cincinnati, and I was a firefighter at the time in Cincinnati. And this Pilarczyk, he was like moving the kids all around, and he was allowing the rapist priest like to still be around children. And like they had this school of the deaf, and they just raped the hell out of those kids. It was pure freaking evil. And like I said, that sickness did touch my family. So it is what it is. But this Pilarczyk, I was surprised that they didn't boot him out. They left him in, He got to keep his job. When I was a firefighter, there was this pastor, this priest. His name was Mike. I forget his last name, from Cincinnati. It's been so long ago, 20 years ago. But we had like this battle in the Cincinnati Fire Department, and half the guys in the Cincinnati Fire Department left the union. Like they removed their membership. They were all black. It was during the Cincinnati riots and all this. Peroniuk was Michael Peroniuk. He was a priest. And then they fire him because he was like the priest of the fire department, because he's paying everybody's dues back that wants to get back into the union. So he's helping pay the dues to get him back into the union. Well, they fire the guy. So I went up there. I went up to the podium, and I was like, I ain't leaving this podium until you hire Mike Peroniuk, the priest, Father Mike Peroniuk, back into the fire department to be our priest. So anyway, I wouldn't leave the podium. Then they came and arrested me, and I said, I'm not going to do anything until you hire this priest back. I'm not leaving. So they arrest me for they were about to arrest me for trespassing, but then they had to go through the city manager and the mayor, and they were all running in front of me, and I'm handcuffed. I'm sitting there handcuffed. But anyway, they give this priest his job back again. 2 weeks later, he's like brought out that he's another fucking predator. This guy just helped get his job back. He was a child rapist. I don't give a shit what he says or how he tries to explain it. He even got to keep his job. Not with the fire department because they fired him like the day of, but the Catholic Church kept him in the diocese. That just broke me. That was a big break. I always tried to revisit the church, from time to time. But then there just came a time, like I said, right before I had died and had my moment, September 14th, 2007, that, I was totally out. I was, let's see what's here. What am I missing? What am I missing? What did I miss? And what do I need to find out? So anyway, um, yeah, I went on my journey. And I'll take it through. I won't. It was a while in and out of a lot of spiritual happenings, but the last pope that was up for election, or not up for election, when the pope now that just died, the other pope before him, when he died and this pope came into being, I remember hearing the news, and I was on a balcony in Tucson, Arizona, and I was overlooking the Saguaro National Forest. And I seen all these quail just running towards, like on the side of the house, just like a huge, biggest herd I ever saw, really. Biggest herd I ever saw of quail in the desert. Right when it was like right after I heard that this pope was elected or died or something like. I think it was when he was elected. When I heard he was elected, or no, he was going to share that. That was right. He was going to share the papacy with the pope before, but behind that big flock of quail were two coyotes, like running the quail, trying to herd them in, to eat. It was either on the day Bernard, no, it was either on the day Bernard said he would resign, and and this pope came in. But I remember hearing that news and seeing that. So anyway, yeah. So he was a pope, I guess. I mean, I didn't really pay any attention. I was on my own journey. I think I made one. Well, I made a couple messes because of funerals, but I think I only made one on my own, and it was when I was in Tucson. So within the last 10 years, I think that's how long he has been Pope. I don't know. It's around 10 years, I think. But anyway, for the last 10 years, it's been nothing for me. Not really paying too much attention. I know, like, he spoke out for gay people, and tried to. He became a very liberal pontificate. I don't know. Did he even join like the woke movement? I have no idea. So and with the prophecy of the popes, I guess Bernard, I guess his name like fit. But this pope, it didn't fit. Like, so he's sharing the papacy with this other pope. So maybe that one name became the two names. Well, anyway, I think that with that one name becoming the two names, together, I don't know, it was like something of the vine or something. I don't know what the prophecy really is, but it's the second last one. So, but everybody knows the next one. And the next one's Peter the Roman. Peter the Roman. the last time there was an election for a pope, when Bernard came into being, when they had that election, and he became the next pope, I was like, at that time, I was writing the pope saying, "Make me the pope, make me the pope, make me the pope." I was writing them. I was writing the Cardinals, emailing them. So, just putting in an effort. So, but anyway, now this pope, then this Bernard was going to resign, or he did resign. He did resign, but yeah, he did resign, and then this pope took over. That's how it was. But they kind of worked it together for a while, So he came in on a resignation. That's how it all went. So the next pope, everybody knows. Everybody knows it's going to be right. It's got to be Peter the Roman. This guy, his father came from Rome, but he was from Buenos Aires, and his father, yeah, his father was that, but he wasn't, and he had nothing to do with Peter except for being a pope. So, is it the last one, or will the elections go through? And if they do go ahead and have an election, this is the favor I would like everyone to do for me this time around. My name is Peter. Okay? My middle name is Anthony. And Anthony means from now, there's a few meanings for Anthony. It's the beloved one. It's one from Antonio or Antoninus or something like that in Italy. And the third one is beloved. So there's three meanings to this Anthony. So Peter Anthony, I'm in the running for the last pope. Peter. Oh, there was the last one, which was did I say that? The lost Roman. At one time, there were name meanings that people would show me, and they would be like Peter, the lost Roman. So anyway, all I would like you to do is make a short of this if you can, right around here, or send the whole thing to your cardinal, wherever in the world. Okay, tell them I'm making a plea to become the Pope. I'm making the plea again. I've written them all before. Some of them may know, some of them may not. But tell them I'm making the plea to become the Pope. And I'm going to become the Pope of looking at Jesus as just a man. Mashiach ben Joseph. And we have to redefine our God being one. Alone. The singularity we're all connected to. And I will also say, and this is the theology that I will bring into the church, is we are all born royal. And the waters of our mother's wombs are more sacred than the waters from the hands of any man. They are more sacred. Because they're waters that the hands of man have never touched. So anyway, hello, Ping. Okay, so anyway, um, yeah, just kind of send this along, share it. Share this video with everybody. Tell them, and write on there, share with your cardinal. I'll even put it on my title. I'll change my title around. Share with your local cardinal. Because I think that the theory or the theologies that we have now need to change. They are ready for change. It is now. So Peter the Roman can be elected. And I fall in as a candidate of Peter the Roman, too. Matter of fact, I don't only fall in as candidate for Peter the Roman because of names, but I fall in to being the heir of Mohammed because of my name. And my name, Peter Anthony means beloved. And beloved is what Muhammad means. Muhammad and Anthony both are names that mean beloved. And Muhammad say a name of my name and a name of my father's name, he will have the same two names. And my father is named Paul, and his father's name was named Abdullah. And those names mean small or humble. So my father's name and my name both hit even the Islamic name prophecy from Muhammad. Who knows how that's going to fall out, but it is what it is. So those are the names. So this Peter Anthony, or this Peter the Roman, I would love to be Pope. I would. I'd go into that job tomorrow. If you're listening, if you're a cardinal, and you're listening to this, I'm asking that you vote for me. My name is Peter Anthony Dean. I'm the Mashiach. Just as Jesus was the Mashiach. Here it is. It's time. It's time to make the real move. It's time to make the real changes. It's time now to move forward in pure reality and pure justice and truth. And I'm sure everyone would agree about that. And that's why I'm asking the Cardinals to vote for me, Peter Anthony Dean. Peter, a.k.a. the Lost Roman. The one from Antinous or Antonis. Beloved. There you go. So yeah, and what's this going to be like? I mean, I know that the Mahdi, there's a Mahdi now that is saying that he is the next pope. And he wants the Cardinals to vote for him. This Abdullah guy or whatever. I forget his full name, but I think he's like the Imam Mahdi or is part of the will of Muhammad that he's saying. These guys are serious, man, and they got a following. And you know what? I'm serious too. I may not have a big following, but I'm serious. I mean, who does the Roman Catholic Church need to be putting in there next? Who knows? The end of the prophecy, though, isn't pretty. Who wants the job where the end of the prophecy is he'll shepherd his flock until they, get their gooses cooked? And then the big judge that has to judge all judges, you know, comes. The second coming of Christ. Could be me. Could be you. Could be anybody. And nobody will ever know until all prophecies are fulfilled. That's how you got to work them. But anyway, yeah, I even have a book called Finding Bellarmine. Finding Bellarmine. Wonder if I got it around here somewhere. Maybe tomorrow I'll read out of it if I have it. I think I do. Anyway, yeah, I wrote this book called Finding Bellarmine. I used to be a doorman. Oh, here you go. Yeah. If you want to know who I am, Cardinals, go ahead and buy my book, Finding Bellarmine. All right. Now, I wrote this book when I was the doorman at Bellarmine Chapel in Cincinnati, Ohio. It was a home of the Jesuits, you can say. But yeah, I was doorman to that chapel for years. Well, yeah, a couple years. I wrote a book called Finding Bellarmine. Now, if you really need to know who I got, I have a book to give you a good feel of where all this is going. But I'm asking the Cardinals, and I'm pleading again, if anybody hears this or reads this, that with the Cardinals, I'm asking them to vote me in. Peter Anthony Dean. I'm ready to go. If this is the way we must work it, all right, let's do it. Why not? Right? We're just human beings doing human things. And this is all part of it. And you know what? I think I'm Mashiach. You know, I'm potential Mashiach to a lot of people, or maybe not a lot of people, but maybe one or two might consider it. I don't know. But it's there. I could be that prodigy of Muhammad. I could be that prodigy of Muhammad with my name. I could be the one that comes from Fatima with my name, Anthony, in my name, which is the same as Muhammad's. And my father, Paul, he's the same as Abdullah. Humble. Just something to think about. Just something to think about, you know. Just something to dwell on. And you know, and act upon, you know. I mean, send it to your cardinal. You know, well, they'll come get me. I'll throw on a vestment. I'll be ready on day one. And the message is the same as Mashiach. It's the same as the Imam Mahdi that would have. And it's be kind. It's be kind. You got to start with your own. You got to start right there. So yeah, here we are. Another Pope down. A last one to go? If so be it, then so be it. and I'll ride in the room. I'll ride into the room of Rome on a horse. And on the back of that horse, I'll ride it as the cult of a foe of a donkey. All right. I hope the Cardinals hear it. Even if I get one vote. Name is Peter, Peter, Anthony, Anthony, Dean, Deane. I hope to see you soon. May Hashem guide our way. Today is a good day. Thank you for joining me. Have a nice evening.